I have an urgent message for the American church. It's about what's going to happen after the election. There are things you need to do right now to prepare yourself for this country after the election. And even though all of you know where I stand on the candidates, that is irrelevant for this particular message. You see, my friend, no matter who wins, half of the nation is going to hate that person. 50% of the nation is going to despise whoever is in the White House. That is a fact of life. I suspect that even though a lot of Christians won't admit it, it's pretty evenly spread among believers as well. So by all rights, I can look at you and tell you that somebody that you cannot stand is going to be president of the United States. That's true of at least half of you. Now, I'm not going to get into policy. I'm not going to get into any of the issues of abortion. What I'm going to tell you about is what you need to do right now to be ready for the post-election United States. And let's begin. Number one, he's not, or she is not, going to be able to get very much done because of the rancor and the division that goes all the way up and down. I'm talking about the Senate, the Congress, Supreme Court, and the world at large. This president is not going to get a lot done, and that could give you tremendous frustration if you're not ready for it. Number two, many of the pastors who are watching me right now need to reassess their definition of success. You know, we used to talk about the great falling away back in the 70s as though it were a science fiction, unrealistic thing that was way off in the future. But people are going to stop going to church. I know I'm going to get emails and letters. Oh, you're being negative. You're being absolutely fearful, and you're teaching unbelief. I'm teaching a fact. If I am guilty of pessimism and unbelief, then certainly the scriptures that Paul wrote are even worse than anything I am talking to you about now. And the fact is that this particular video ends in victory. But let's face the facts. If you are judging the success of your church by how big it is, you need to wake up now before the election happens. And you need to reassess what you consider to be a powerful service. I believe that if you look at Matthew 10, it says, when you go into a city and you're going to pray for the sick, raise the dead, and cast out devils, that you look for the worthy house. The definition of church has got to change from we have all these programs, we have all these wonderful people, to we are the place where God is in his presence and power and doing things that can be seen with the eye. That leads me to my third point. America is going to be beyond words after this election. The Christianity of I'm going to sit down and I'm going to sell you on it like I would in an infomercial where you could buy this house or this particular product, it is going to change. We are at a point where people need to experience the reality of signs, wonders, miracles, and the power of God. They also need to feel conviction. Now, I'm going to tell you that church is going to change, and the issue is also going to become number 4, disunity. We're going to battle unity among ourselves. Already, because of politics, there is a horrendous schism between the black and the white church in the United States. I have a feeling that's going to intensify. I'm not just talking about Black Lives Matter or Blue Lives Matter or All Lives Matter. I'm saying that something is at work because Satan values the threat of a unified American church. It means a lot to him. He doesn't want it to happen. He will go out of his way to stop it. And the problem is that during this particular campaign, the rhetoric has been way up over the top. I'll tell you that I have been vehement about my viewpoints on my blogs about things that are going on in our government. But I also understand that after this election is over, all of those hurts, those wounds, those positions, those offenses that people have taken with each other on Facebook or whatever means you've had to communicate with each other are going to keep going and deepen. They're not going to heal automatically. So I'm going to tell you what to do. What we've got to do in preparation for the post-election letdown, which is what it's going to be, again, regardless of who wins, is that you need to start amping up the intensity of how you pray. You say, Mara, that's obvious. No, it's not obvious. Here's what's not obvious and is missing in this. When you get alone with God after you view this particular video, the issue becomes all of your heart, to seek God with all of your heart. You and I have been crippled. We've been handicapped by decades of entitlement in the pulpit. We don't know how to totally get desperate before God. I suggest that today you make it the goal of your life to say, I want to be a living sacrifice, and my belief that God pays my bills, my belief that God is my healer, my belief that God will sustain me in crisis is not a murky, distant Disneyland fantasy, but a bedrock hard reality. Now, after prayer, here's the second thing you've got to do. Don't let valuable relationships die. Now, listen to me. I'm talking to you. One of the things that I believe is important in my life is that I have friends who disagree with me. I have associates who disagree. Now, we've learned how to disagree respectfully and politely, but we feel very strongly about our position. What we're going to find out is after the dust settles, it reminds me of an incident that I had with a friend who lost an eye in the locker room when I was in high school. Two guys got in a fight. One accidentally slammed the side of his face into a bench and lost an eye. Now, here's what I found out after I had seen him at a reunion. They didn't remember what they were fighting about. He remembers losing the eye. That's going to happen to a lot of Christians if they don't learn right now that our family is deeper than race, deeper than politics, and deeper than our view of how the world should be or how it should work. There's got to be today a communication with camps. Pastors need to humble themselves and be the bigger person and reach out to people that they know they disagree with. After this is all over, what's going to matter is the fellowship. After this is all over, what's going to matter is the mission of the church to preach the gospel of Christ and bring healing to those who are sick. Finally, Psalm 91 is calling you. You've got to go to Psalm 91 today and realize this about Psalm 91. It is your handbook for what happens after November the 8th. On November the 9th, I hope you have Psalm 91 memorized, because then you'll realize that no matter what's coming at you, if you make God your dwelling place, you will fear no evil. You'll dwell under the shadow of the Almighty. 1,000 may fall at your right hand, and 10,000, but it will not come nigh unto you. That's what it says. These words are going to become alive. Finally, unity is an essential aspect of the gospel. It's almost as though you're gutting the gospel when you tell people they need God, and then they see the segmented, argumentative, disagreeing, divided church. So Jesus said in John 17:21 that the whole world would know that we are the disciples of Christ if we had love one for another. Now, let me tell you about love. Love means that you can disagree with your fellow Christian. Love means you can forgive your fellow Christian. And most of you that are listening to this blog are going to have to understand that instead of seeking an apology, get ready to offer one. Be the bigger person. Even if you believe you've been totally wronged, there is an important healing that must begin now. It is important that we have this preemptive word. I believe in the end, we're going to have victory. I believe that in the end, we're going to have power. But we have got to face facts. God bless you, and I'll talk to you again soon.